Thank you.
All right, and then just really quick, we have a story map for our presentation today. This will be shared afterwards. Everything that we're going over, you're gonna have the links accessible after the meeting, but we're not gonna click through every single thing today just for the sake of time, but just know that resource is there for you after the meeting. One of those being this map that Laura made showing where all of the trainers are located at currently. They're active in the state of Texas. Put you on the spot. All right.
So in real life, if
You
I
can
were,
interact with it.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, you can click on the points, see the trainers, details, zoom in, zoom out.
I thought I was just making the presentation. All right, well, we're starting with match today. I don't know how many of you all are familiar with in-kind match, but our program requires 40% of cost share. And what that entails is that is non-federal share of costs. So whatever funding we do receive, that's federal funding, so our TCEQ grants, do come in with that built-in 40 cost share requirement. Most of our grants do require that. I don't know how familiar you are with your grants requiring that. Some of them do, some of them don't. We do catalog all of our activities and report it to TCEQ on a quarterly basis. We used to send out partner reminders for these reports on a quarterly basis. But these days we are generating our match just by our volunteer monitoring activities. That section at the bottom of the monitoring form where you fill out, right, distance traveled, participants that attended the monitoring events, time spent sampling, all of those values are used to identify the actual volunteer time and rate from all of that. So it adds up. That is the reason why you haven't received those emails in such a long time. So if you ever have questions on that, you can always feel free to reach out to me. So basically, the reason we still like to receive these forms is because we are trying to get a good grasp of the value of the volunteer time for our program. So it kind of gives us insight on the numbers and all of that. And actually the volunteer rate is an annual rate that does get released. So it seems like the trajectory is always increasing. So that's a good thing. But then we end up, with all this match funding that we kind of just sit on. So we'll be talking more about that later. Some sources of in-kind match, like I said, time spent monitoring, on trainings, even prepping for those and coordinating with your group and your volunteers. Total distance traveled, again, whether that be doing your field audits or things like that, meeting the person at their site, any kind of mileage incurred for the program. What was it called? And supplies, so kits, reagents, even office supplies to meet your needs for your program. And then I have the link there for the 2022 rate, which is still in effect, and that is $29.95 per hour. And it's interesting because it is a 4.9, almost 5% increase from 2020 and 2021. So there is that, trajectory of constant increase. So it's pretty neat. It really helps us out. We're not desperate for match. So if y'all ever need anything like that, feel free to come to us. Reports, I know a lot of you are kind of kicking back up or barely kind of coordinating to get started. All of that would count as time for match. If you have your own grants, you can keep that. I'm not going to request it from you. But if you need help trying to get the numbers and everything to line up, you can use our resource. I can help you with that. You don't have to submit any kind of report or documentation for zero activity. So if you're literally at a standstill, that's not required. During COVID, a lot of folks, at cities and municipalities couldn't legally get out there and do anything. So they didn't have anything to work on. So in that case, we don't require those. I don't need it for any processing. So no need to spend time on that. And like I said, if you have any grants that you would like to use that for, use it, don't report it twice, so you wouldn't be reporting it to us, you would just be keeping it for your own records and documentation for your grants. So, and so that was just kind of a quick run through on how that works. The newer thing that I have developed for some of our folks that do travel and spend some time coordinating for their group or trainings was basically a log, because there wasn't really anything in place for everybody to have a template to use. So this is new. This is something that you can use for your own records and to submit to us for your reports if you do have one to submit. But yeah, that is available. And basically it's just capturing all the information needed for the PAR form, partner activity report form, the name of your group or partner, who completed the form, the quarter that is being reported for. And if you scroll down, there is like this is a Excel worksheet, so it does do the math for you at the bottom. All you would have to do is submit it to us. And like I said before, if you need match from us, like if you haven't been able to keep track of like your own group volunteer activity and want that report directly from the data viewer, we can pull that. I can do all the math and send that to you for your records. You just have to keep that for your files. So I'm here to help you all on your match needs.
Should I move up there or?
I think the audio is doing pretty good.
Okay, and can people see me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone can see you and they said they hear us loud and clear.
Cool. Perfect.
Okay, I want to piggyback on what Claudia said a little bit about the match and emphasize how important it is for us, but also for opportunities for grant writing. And we, in the past, have collaborated with a lot of partners to do collaborative grant writing and are happy to offer our expertise and brainstorm with partners and trainers on how we can raise funds either locally or, sometimes nationally. There are grants that will compensate organizations for this type of work. So we love to be creative and are also always looking for new ideas. And so please reach out to us if you have either new ideas or you identify grants or you need help identifying grants. With the match, as Claudia said, we don't always use the amount of match that we receive from partners and all of the volunteers. So we are happy to share that with y'all if you have a need for a certain grant. And it's a really easy way to come up with, sometimes as much as 50% of a requirement for match. And another thing with that, we have heard some feedback from partners about there being an issue of having to share all their match with us, so then they don't have the match for their own needs. And so want to emphasize that we want to support y'all however we can. And if there ever is that type of situation, please know, please communicate with us about those needs and any type of support that we can do. We love writing letters of recommendation. There's an example of the Headwaters of the Comal in New Braunfels, where we helped them apply for their own 319 funding and incorporate Texas Dream Team activities into their grant. And I heard the other day from TCEQ that it scored the highest out of any other grants they had received. And they're like, yeah, they must have hired a grant writer or something. And I was like, what? We helped. We helped, and we're happy to see these partners receive their independent funding incorporate Stream Team wherever they can. They're gonna be installing some green infrastructure on site at a new parking lot. And then incorporating Texas Stream Team into the monitoring above and below that section of their construction. And gonna be incorporating some research into how, how that can improve the water quality. So love collaborating and brainstorming, coming up with new ideas on how Stream Team can be useful for our communities along the way. So that is it in a nutshell for collaborative grant writing. Any questions before I move to our next section?
On our comments, we do have, if, as we're moving along with the presenters, if you would just say your name before you go through the slides, just so the person knows who's talking, and if they need to reach out about anything in the future, they'll know who to ask for that.
Noted.
Yes, thank you for that. And I'm Jenna Walker, and for the specific collaborative grant writing, I would contact Aspen directly or the Texas Stream Team email.
I would add to that just briefly that there are some resources online. Oh, Sandra,
We gotta get in the movement.
Yeah, we're so this is Sandra Arisminda speaking. So I was just going to add that there are some resources on our website to help with the grant writing that you might find useful as well.
Yes. Okay, there are not any specific questions. I'll move on to our research quickly. So this is Jenna again, and I did want to add one thing before that too. I was originally a river ranger, started monitoring in grad school here at Texas State 13 years ago, and then moved to Waco and worked with Melissa to train Wacoans and students, and also residents along the Bosque up to Stephenville. And then now have been working here at Meadows for 7.5 years. So I understand how it can be as a partner, trainer, volunteer. There are many different experiences, and I just want to emphasize like how much we want to support y'all in those different realms of participation. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So for the research, we, as part of our 30th anniversary, wanted to compile experiences and hear from people about like their specific experiences as either trainers, volunteers, or partners, and capture that within a published article. So we're working on that, and then also with the goal of creating a book about Texas Stream Team and specifically about the volunteer experience. And so I have already, we sent out the survey this past fall and had a really great response rate. We had over 328. Yeah, 328 responses. And then as part of that, gave people the opportunity to schedule an interview with me. We're going to open that up to more of our staff to be conducting those interviews, to dig a little deeper with the same questions, but hear specifically some examples of people's favorite memories, things that they've discovered along the way, interactions with the public, etc. So I would love to have interviews with all of you directly, and we're going to be sending out another link to our Sign Up Genius website where we'll have our time slots posted for people to sign up. And usually takes about 30 minutes, sometimes shorter, depending on how long people want to talk. But would love to capture those specifically from you guys and hear about either your specific experience or of your volunteer group. We have our team is working on that research, but with Christina as our lead scientist. And so it's a learning process for us as well. We're gonna be coding, we're gonna be writing a literature review, and then hopefully capturing some of these specific experiences as well. So we're really excited about it and appreciate y'all taking the time to participate. Any questions on that or extra info? Okay.
All right, this is Aspen. We're gonna pivot over to trainer training. So this is individuals who are either a trainer and going to be certified other trainers, or individuals who are interested in becoming a trainer. A couple updates. So the trainer enrollment form has received just a few tweaks. First and foremost, in order to become a certified trainer, a trainer enrollment form is required. So you won't receive certification and can't lead trainings until this form is in our hands on record. A certified trainer must sign the phases they assisted with. So if you just scroll down a little bit, yeah. So for each of those phases that are listed on the left, phase 2, 3, and 4, a trainer that is leading you through that process, as a certified trainer, needs to be the one to sign you off. And then I just want to point out a few specific updates that we did, nothing too major, but we took some feedback from last year's meeting as well too. So first highlight here, certified trainers have full authority to override prerequisites if the trainer or trainee successfully completes all phases up to the certified trainer standards. So if you feel that, somebody hasn't been monitoring for a year, but they're solid, they got the information down, that 1-year requirement can be completely overridden based off of your opinion. We trust you guys, y'all are in the field, y'all are training people, you know what people are capable of, so we leave that totally up to y'all. And then on the flip end, if you feel that somebody maybe needs a couple more phases and more trainings to work with, that's totally fine. You can refrain from signing them off completely and maybe have them repeat phase 3 or phase 2, whatever you feel comfortable with. But ultimately, you as a trainer that's signing them off for that specific phase, you feel confident with them, they don't need to do anything else moving forward. For phase 1, we tweaked the duration that somebody has to be monitoring before they can become a trainer. It was 2 years and we changed it to 1. We found that a lot of people are usually not monitoring for 2 years. A lot of people who are in the professional field as well too are already got this stuff down. So we just kind of took what has been happening and reduced that duration to 1 year. Again, if you feel like they need a couple more trainings, practices, things like that, you can ask them to repeat a couple of phases. And then the other update is on the second page, which is on the right side of the screen. So we have found that when trainers move on to another organization or whatever it may be, we didn't have like a personal email on file, so we lost complete contact with them. Even though you may switch jobs, you're still a certified trainer with us. So we want to make sure that we still have the ability to communicate with you and to make sure our records are up to date. So we have 2 lines now for emails. One's going to be your personal email or public shareable email. So this will be the email that's going to go online on our trainers page. This is the email people will use to reach out to you. So in parentheses, it says to be displayed on our website. And then the second email we ask for is a personal email. So Gmail, Hotmail, whatever it may be, refrain from providing your work or school email, please. It makes our lives so much easier. And we want to make sure we can have our records up to date. So this button will link you to our trainer enrollment form that's live on the website. We won't go to it specifically, but y'all will have it after the meeting.
So Aspen,
Yeah.
Is it online like the training one, or is it still a printed form?
It's still a printed form. We kind of went back and forth with making it like an electronic form, but getting a signature from different trainers is a little tricky. So hopefully one day, but yes, it will be paper for now. Any questions in the chat?
Nope.
I guess one more thing, go up a little bit.
Okay.
So one thing to note too is if you have multiple trainers in your group, having the email displayed on the website, that's kind of like a universal email for your group. Like I know I'm going to use HJC because I know y'all have a string team at HJC email account. So that's something to note, especially with the training enrollment form. It kind of helps go to, all in one deal. If that makes sense.
One place.
One place, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna take on trainings here. This is Claudia speaking. This shouldn't be new to most of you. We did update a couple things, so just wanted to share all that with y'all. So just going over the required documentation for your trainings. The training enrollment form, which we have been really working hard on to help, with record keeping and tracking and all that for all of our lovely trainers. It's been a work in progress, but I think we finally got it. And Adam, thank you for helping us. So that's that.
And other trainers.
And other trainers, yes, that we had to reach out to for that feedback. So we appreciate that. So I'm gonna have Desiree scroll through the form first, just so we can see the new thing. So up at the top, we have put a disclaimer stating that each participant should be submitting a training enrollment form for each training that they are going to attend and complete. So the only reason we shouldn't get this is if you're attending for a refresher or just attending to, kind of, we have trainers too, if it's a large group and you have someone else come just to kind of watch and things like that. It's case by case, but usually if it's a refresher, we don't require this. You already processed you don't technically lose your certification, but if you send one in, we'll still look at it and stuff and make sure all that information is still accurate on our end. But mostly if nothing is needed there, then don't worry about submitting that. Okay, actually right there. We do have kind of a major development on participant age requirements. So we've aged the minimum requirement to 9th grade, and that's 14 years old. I don't know where we got the feedback, Ashley, but
I can elaborate on
yeah,
that.
if you want to.
So, just talking to other trainers, there was feedback that they never really train anybody younger, like in middle school or younger. So we kind of took that to account. And then we're also doing some other research too, currently, where we have been looking at other programs in the nation, and no other program did any younger than that age group as well. We've had trainings with, even some like younger high school freshmen, and that kind of can get a little hard too, as far as like where they're at in learning, but also emphasizing how serious it is to take the QC, protocols seriously, just because the data can be skewed so easily. So that's where the age requirement came in. If anybody has any like major pushback on that, I don't think we've even seen an enrollment form come in for middle school. So I think there shouldn't be any problems moving forward. But again, you as a trainer, use your best judgment. If somebody does come to you who's younger than 14, and you think that they can take it really seriously, they're there, and you have full confidence in them, okay. But I would say let's try to at least stay to that age range as much as possible.
Can I ask a question at this point?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, there was a trainer in Houston that was a teacher, and she was working with her students. But she was the official monitor. The students got some level of training, but they weren't certified monitors.
Yeah.
And is that the usual way, or do students actually get monitored, and how do you maintain the continuity on the site when they're moving on so quickly?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different schools that are operating differently. So we have one school previously in Ira Ann, where the teacher was the actual trainer, and she just took her class with her to go out and monitor. So the students weren't certified, citizen scientists, but they were able to go out and get the mechanics down, go out with a teacher, and they actually did that during class time. So they got to go on a field trip to a site.
But the teacher was the official monitor.
Yes, exactly. So her name was on, or is on the monitoring forms. We have other teachers who go through the route of becoming a certified trainer. And when they do that, then they have full authority to go and certify their students, again, preferably high school and up. And I know it's a fast turnaround, like per year, but some teachers can make it like a year project to, accumulate data over a year, and then have like a project at the end where you're analyzing that data. But yeah, so, and then another thing too is at least introducing middle schoolers. If you're, we have like a middle school teacher who's a trainer, and taking students out there. By the time they do reach high school, then they can go and get that certificate.
Thank you.
Yeah. good question. Any other questions on that?
That was pretty much it. Am I missing?
We did add a couple more demographic stuff in here. Our stuff was pretty heavily outdated, trying to be more inclusive, and I think, what else did we add? Yeah. Made it a little bit more condensed. The other one was a little heavy, and so we have drop downs now, try to make it just a little bit more compact as possible. It's a lot of information. The demographic information, as always, is optional. It is nice to also see, you know, who's interested in our program and maybe who's missing out and where we need to focus efforts as well too.
I have one addition. This is Sandra Harris Mendez. So if you scroll up a little bit, right, a little bit more. Right there. So the citizen scientist commitment statement, just take note that there's a link there to the quality assurance project plan. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that here shortly. But know that this is something, a statement that you sign off on as a citizen scientist, that you're aware that this exists and you're agreeing to comply with it. So that's more for TCQ, who is also in the audience. This is one form of communicating to our broader audience that exists. And I'll talk more about it here shortly.
Did you go over the receipt goes to trainers?
No, yeah, one huge development,
Huge, massive. This is heavily requested.
Yes, we have updated our form to now be housed under survey 123, and Laura has done some magic on her end on that. On there, to get a copy, when a participant submits this, we receive it through, you know, survey 123, but also now the trainer can receive a copy as confirmation. Before it was kind of really hazy as to who was supposed to come and show up. Some people just show up. So hopefully this will really smooth things over there.
Can you scroll to it, Desiree? Scroll down a little bit. It should be on there. Training.
So one important thing kind of that was mentioned before is if you have, we highly encourage you, yes, you to have a group shared email. So if you have multiple trainers, use that for this, because you can only select one trainer to receive the confirmation. So we couldn't select multiple people, so that's kind of what we're encouraging, to kind of have all of those be shared amongst all trainers for any given group or organization.
And let's type a trainer in just to show them what it looks like in this field.
All right.
So Adam's name automatically pops up, and that's on the back end. We have all of y'all's email and information. That's why it's important. We have updated email information. And then what happens is you'll select Adam's name, and then they will get an email copy once the form is fully submitted and filled out.
We do have a question from Lisa Martinez. With regard to the commitment, does Texas Dream Team have a minimum time for a monitor to collect at a site? When I joined, for instance, it was 2 years. What is the present expectation?
1 year.
1 year, yeah. So we understand people don't see like exciting things happening on their site. It may be a little like, all right, things are starting to plateau for them, but we at least ask people to commit to, this is Aspen, by the way, to commit to 1 year of monitoring at the same time each month to develop that consistency over a year duration. You have the seasonal changes that are coming to effect that you're able to document within that year. And then that is really what we emphasize. Obviously, we're never going to turn down data. So if after a year there, you want to break or maybe go to like every other month or whatever it may be. We also encourage people to take turns. So one person do 1 month, another person do another month. Anything else to add on that?
I will have one quick comment.
Yeah.
When you do get the confirmation receipts, it's, in my opinion, super nice because it's all just stripped down text in each new line. So it's just, name, contact email, phone number, training date and training type. And I love that because instead of it trying to be a fancy thing, I can actually automate that pulling from my email and I can correlate it with my, the folks who have signed up already. So
Nice.
that's perfect.
Good. So far it's working.
Yes,
Don't make it fancy.
honestly, yeah.
Lynn says she appreciates the moving to the 1 year instead of the 2 year because she thinks it may have scared off a few prospective monitors to commit. So,
Appreciate that feedback. Does somebody else have any questions?
no questions.
So something that has not changed, is obviously we always need a sign-in sheet to confirm your participants for your training. Because again, we do get these forms, not everybody attends, this is our avenue for verifying attendance for the certifications and certificates that go out on a monthly basis. We did add a couple things though. Here, kind of a disclaimer that we would really appreciate to receive these within 30 days after the the training is completed, just to keep everything on track. The farther away we get from the training, the harder it is to kind of keep track of all that. So we encourage submitting those as soon as possible. And the lead trainer signature, it basically kind of the same thing as the trainer or woman form. You're signing off saying these people are ready basically to go out there, get their certificate and start monitoring. So kind of just another level of verification from the trainer that everyone has met the expectations, they're ready to go. If there's any, people that you have reservations on signing off, then you can kind of mention that, make a note or, put an asterisk or something there, and we'll work through that.
Or maybe this is Aspen even refraining from putting them on the sign-in sheet. If they're not fully ready to be signed off, you can submit a separate sign-in sheet at another time with somebody's name on it. So
Yeah,
when
they might leave halfway through
Yeah.
for some whatever reason, and they might have signed in at the beginning, you can cross them out, that kind of stuff, but yeah, you can always edit this and send a clean copy to
And then something else too. I know a couple of trainers have their own version of the sign-in sheet, which is totally fine. This is just meant to be a template for everybody. Use it however you will. I will say, if you do have your own sign-in sheet templates, just make sure you have all of the information that we have on our template, because all of that is for documentation purposes for our trainings too. So if we don't have it, we're gonna just keep bugging you for it. So please make everybody's life easier.
For turning in these sign-in sheets, if we have a really large amount of people at a training, is there an easier way y'all want us to submit names and emails so y'all can strip it really easily?
We'll go through some.
I love it.
Yeah, so another thing too is we're trying to get all of our documents to have the last date of revision, so you'll see that now moving forward. Keep an eye on that, so make sure you're using the right one. Everything on our website will be the current version, but if for whatever reason you might have saved something on your own, computers or laptops, keep that in mind. Make sure you're using the most current document. Okay, you can scroll down. So this can be helpful for you, Adam, for large trainings like that. Because a lot of not a lot, but there's a couple folks that lead trainings in a way that is not necessarily all in one session, all in one day. For example, we were talking about students or students. Standard core trainings can get pretty long, especially if it's a large group. So if for whatever reason you have to use this to track that type of activity, feel free to do so. It's basically the same format as the sign-in sheets, has all that information. And the most important thing about this is that you can track where they're at and send this to us also so that we know where they're at, where you're at with that. I kind of used HJC's format, which is because they do phase 3 at the monitoring site. So I just made it nice, followed our branding and yeah, I think this could work for you, Adam. For that, you can always add more. This is a worksheet also. This is Excel. So it does tally total participants for you. On the paper version, you would have to write in how many people were there. This does all the math for you for each phase. There's a comments box and then the trainer's signature at the bottom there. But yeah, this is just another resource for helping us and you all tracking with large groups that, stretch out more than one day, which does happen. So
So
trying
do
to
you-
accommodate.
Because you want information within 30 days. So do you want the sign-in sheet still turned in and just note that this will follow, or is this taking the place of the sign-in sheet?
Yeah, we're going back and forth and we encourage still receiving those, but essentially you're just transcribing whatever that information is onto here. So as long as we get something to verify attendance and that they completed the requirements, QAP kind of auditing stuff, we will process it. So it's just another resource there.
So we could send in the sign-in sheet right after the training, say these people attended, training log to follow to see who's actually.
And honestly, we were taking y'all sign-in sheets and doing this on our end. So we just figured share this just to have it, for y'all internal tracking as well. We would basically just share this with you guys as well. So it's just there. So
So
in
it
case you need it.
can be used in place of the sign-in sheet, is what Claudia is saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, this is kind of redundant from last year, but I just wanted to reiterate really quickly that for your day of training materials, we have the sign-in sheet like we discussed, the participant packet, which is what you would print out for phase 1 through 3 monitoring forms, and then we have PowerPoint slides as well. But the only thing we actually need from you after the training is just the sign-in sheet itself. So it kind of helps reduce paper on y'all's end and our end as well. And then I have a link to where that sign-in sheet is too on the forms and resources page.
Alrighty, this is Allie. I have exciting news. So as y'all know, we started utilizing pre-training modules. I think, was it last year or the year before?
Oh, it was
COVID. It was peak pandemic.
Yeah.
We shifted to online modules to kind of reduce the in-person amount of time spent together during trainings. And we were using a platform called Canvas, which is the Texas State kind of like their classroom system, their online learning system. And we had a lot of feedback that it was a lot of work for you guys to kind of set up, and it was work for us to set up individual pages for you guys. So what we have done is we have transitioned the Canvas learning modules. You can scroll back up a little bit. There we go. To a story map. A story map is what we are on right now. So it just flows through one page, and it is one universal link that you can send to anybody. So everything that was in the Canvas modules, all the material, the videos, the quiz, the training enrollment form is now on one single story map that's like very short compared to all the pages you have to click through on the Canvas page. It's much more user-friendly. And we were thinking about module quizzes and how to make sure that you would receive, if you haven't used the modules before, we have a retention quiz that is embedded into the modules to kind of make sure that the trainees are understanding everything that's in the videos and the pre-training materials. And we have also transitioned that to a Survey 123 platform, which is the same platform that the new training enrollment is on. And we have it set up the same way that when a trainee completes the quiz, they will select who is their trainer, and the trainer will get confirmation that they completed the quiz. So that way it's up, you guys know, and you guys can keep track of who is meeting all the requirements to get the certification. So these pre-training modules, they are still optional for trainings led by our partners, but we still are going to require them for trainings led by our staff. We just find they take away so much time because like we said, trainings can get long, especially core with big groups. Riparian trainings take a really long time if you're doing those all in person. So these pre-training modules, they just kind of take away all the background information and kind of let them learn it on their own. So the day of the training, you guys can just focus on the procedures and the monitoring protocols, kind of just focus really on that and take it from a 4-hour training to like a 2.5-hour training. So even though they're optional, we really encourage utilizing them to reduce the time and spend more time on procedures. And this is just an example of the new core. You can go and scroll down, story map. So we have our general information. Disclaimer is that the entire module has to be completed before the scheduled in-person training. The videos that they can go through, making sure they watch the entire thing. The quiz, which is now in story map. So it's the same thing. They'll just click through, and the quizzes, they're not graded. They're just kind of a retention thing. They want to check. They want to make sure that they did. Scroll down a little bit. And then this is, we moved the training enrollment form to the last step that's kind of a check to make sure they actually scroll through the entire thing instead of just doing all the required stuff at the beginning and then clicking out. So yeah, and that's it. At the end, we have some more resources. And if you guys do decide to utilize these modules, we want to give trainees at least a month to get these done. I know it just kind of has it on the back of their mind instead of giving them like a few days. So we're recommending at least a month out from training to get their modules done. So yeah, we're really excited about these.
And they're all live online
they're
already.
all live online. So this morning, yeah, this morning. So and with that, we can scroll down a little bit we can take questions after. We've also updated our training PowerPoints that you guys will use for your trainings, and they're also on the website. So the PowerPoints that are now on the website, they include the slides that are in the training videos with the information about parameters, stream team background, and they also have speaking notes for you guys to go on if you kind of like talk about important things to note. And if you guys use the pre-training module, there are instructions in the slides of which slides to delete from this the presentation, so you don't have to go through all of them again on the day of your training. And again, you guys have to use the most recent version of the PowerPoints, and they're on our website with the date on them. Do we have that page pulled up?
We don't, but it's linked so everybody
So
can.
it's linked, it'll have an all core, E. coli, advanced, riparian are all updated. They all have the most recent date, and they all have all the information and instructions on what slides to delete if you are using the pre-training modules. So are there any questions about the new modules or the new PowerPoints?
We have a comment and a question. So comment from Lynn. She really enjoyed using the module as an attendee because it just helps give you so much background before the training. And then for a question from Melissa Mullins, can the trainees name a trainer in training to receive the quiz results?
Yes.
Yes.
If you go up, we'll show
Mhm.
them. It's kind of exactly like the training enrollment form. Keep going to the quiz.
There we go.
So where it says select the trainer leading your training, you want to start typing in there.
All right.
There you go. Kendall's name pulls up. And then once the quiz is submitted, Kendall will receive a copy of that quiz. So you'll know if they went through it.
But if the trainer in training, so if we I guess she doesn't think a trainer in training can receive the.
Oh,
So will we have to, I think we don't have trainer in trainings in the trainer database yet.
correct.
They won't be in the trainer database until they're finished their phase, I guess, 4, or they get signed off. So I think the answer to that is no,
No,
it'll
the
go to
trainer.
the lead trainer. So the trainer who is supervising the trainer in training will get that confirmation.
Yeah. And it's exactly like the training enrollment form too. Only one trainer can be selected to receive a copy. So another reason a universal email might make things a little bit easier.
You said, okay, thanks, that's fine. Just trying to hand off work wherever I can. And then from Amisha, I tried to access the PowerPoint from the website yesterday and it didn't work.
That was the old website or the old PowerPoint, Amisha. I uploaded a new one
Literally this morning.
this morning. So try again. I know some people were having issues downloading the previous ones. I'm hoping we compress some of the pictures. So I'm hoping that makes it easier. We did test it out ourselves too to try to download it, and it worked for us. So let us know if anybody has trouble, and we'll have our communications manager troubleshoot.
All right, it's a Coolio, thanks.
Yay.
And I'll point out too, another cool thing about the module, now that it's like one link and you don't have to add and remove people, is they will have access to this information indefinitely. So if they ever have questions on like, you know, trainee has, or monitor has a question on, you know, whatever it may be, what's E. coli or what units it is, it's always gonna be there for them.
Thanks for working on this. This is very exciting.
Ally was lead on this. All right, we're now an hour in, so we're gonna take like a 5-minute break. Let's regroup around 11:05. Does that sound good? Yeah, okay, we'll pause the recording and save y'all from having to look at us during our break. We have everything.
Okay. As we're reconvening, we have a question, a general question about trainings from Lynn. If we are conducting an informational meeting about Texas Stream Team at an educational conference to invite local teachers to get involved, does the meeting need to be posted on the calendar if it is not an actual training? Just information given out about Texas Stream Team. Does Texas Stream Team set up booths at educational conferences?
Yeah, so I think it depends on, if you're trying to advertise that for people to attend, we can definitely include that on the calendar. Like Ally said earlier, we do have a education request form, right? That you can submit to us to get a representative at an event. But yeah, we can always accommodate those requests as we can, but it does depend. I don't know about, because we were kind of talking earlier, this meeting was put on the calendar and people got confused that it was a training. We would just have to be very clear that this is a meeting just to kind of give information about Texas Stream Team and how to get involved, that kind of stuff, that can be added on there.
And I will, this is Ally, I will add to that, for like requests for like a stream team presence at an event or something. If, usually what we try to do is we try and ask a local partner to attend on our behalf. So like if someone had an event in Houston, we would reach out to one of our Houston partners to say, could you go and represent us, get some information on our behalf? Because as you can see, we're a team of about, guess how many people are here? 6 people.
I have to think about it.
Yeah,
And we have other projects.
and we have other projects, so we, as much as we would love to, we can't get out to every single event or every single presentation. So just keep that in mind too.
Also, the benefit of that too is you're the local representative for that area. So we can come in, but ultimately they'd be circling back to you to get involved and get trained as well.
Do y'all, so on the old quarterly reports, or on the quarterly reports now, y'all have us report if we do like non-point source pollutant presentations. Do y'all want us to report presentations we do in some way and the
Definitely.
participation numbers?
If you do, and if you are capturing those numbers, share that. Yeah, and I mean, again, if you're not using this for your own math. But obviously, we do want to see what's going on, what you guys are doing. So that is one avenue to share that.
And one more question from Judy. If a training is scheduled on the calendar with trainees signed up, but it must be postponed due to inclement weather or illness, does the training need to be reposted to the calendar?
I would leave that up to the trainer for that one, because if you already have everyone or registration closed and you're just postponing it, I wouldn't suggest changing that on the calendar. I could change it and then just say registration is closed. You could just email us at TX Stream Team, at TX, right?
Yeah.
Say it's still there,
Yeah.
TXState.edu. And we'll make those edits on there, because once it's released in public calendar, you all can make those edits. We have to do that internally. So if you do need to make those accommodations, just let me know what you would prefer.
Right. Is there anything we need to clarify with presentations too?
No, Lynn said, so is it okay for me as a trainer to represent Texas Stream Team?
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We encourage it.
Yes.
okay, another question?
This speaks to just like the certificates after the training. I know I've had, some issues with participants getting their certificate. How long after the training should they look for that?
So the reason why we added that disclaimer about the 30 days is because that affects the certificate mail out. So ideally, at the beginning of every month, we process everything for the previous month, certificates go out. So this month would be last month's certificates or any lingering forms that we got from previous months would go out this month. So it's on a monthly basis. So it's pretty routine if right now, because we have to update our certificate files as well for every year and everything, and we've changed a couple things on there, and I've been having issues with these new templates, so yeah, I'm kind of delayed on those right now, but they are on a monthly schedule.
And then, again, for edits, because I know we had, Chris had put something on the calendar, and I need to make edits to it, so I just sent an email to the Texas Stream.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, and those are pretty quick, so you can get that done as soon as you send us that information.
Yeah, I wish the calendar would let y'all do it. It's kind of frustrating, but if anyone has any ideas on other platforms, let us know.
Do y'all still plan to stick with the MailChimp for distribution of certificates?
Yes, unfortunately, that's kind of what our department uses, so
Cool.
we couldn't really get away from that, but we are trying to troubleshoot a couple things too, because there's some, and we'll kind of go into more detail later about it, but still there's some issues accessing certificate with links and stuff like that, but for the most part, everyone kind of gets them. We could always send them just directly from our email as well, because sometimes there's just a weird issue about the email not matching up with the MailChimp server. It's weird, a weird issue, but if you ever need your certificate, you can't access it, just reach out to us.
So, kind of going back a little bit to the sign-in sheet, I know we work with, Capel High School. And so on the, I think we talked about it, Aspen,
Yeah.
but for their email addresses, we should probably ask them for their personal email
Yes.
versus their school email.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yes,
Something to
yes.
emphasize on that. So if a student moves on and graduates, then they won't ever have access to that certificate again, because I don't know what the turnaround is, but they'll lose access to that email.
Yeah, and actually, some of these school emails will actually block them, yeah, they
Oh, I
won't
forgot
get that,
Yeah.
they'll just get deleted, they won't even go to spam or anything like that, so it's kind of, that's why we're encouraging person.
Good point. Before we move on to QA really quick, this is Aspen. I just want to kind of briefly respond to the comments in the chat about some people being able to download presentations, some not. Sounds like we figured out a platform that would work. Staying away from Firefox to download it is what I gathered. We've done Safari, Chrome, those seem to work. Sounds like the Riparian maybe a little too big, so I'm gonna work on that one and troubleshoot it. But if y'all ever have problems accessing the PowerPoints, just shoot us an email at the txstreamteam@txstate.edu and I'll get those over to you another way.
All right, moving on. Hi, this is Sandra Arismendes. I'm the water quality coordinator on Texas Stream Team, but I'm also the quality assurance officer. So you'll hear me talk about QA and QC at these annual meetings. So this year we underwent a revision of our quality assurance project plan, which is our planning document that documents, it's a requirement of our grant by both EPA and TCEQ, but it also documents our protocol that we use to monitor for our different monitoring programs. So lots of information, probably more than you would like to know about. But anyway, this year our QAPP expired in December of 2022, so we were up for renewal. In preparing the new document, we had some internal discussions about how to present a diagram that would kind of encompass what all that document includes. And this is what we came up with, and I'll have to give credit to Kaylee Bogan, our graduate research assistant, and Anna Huff for designing this. But if you have some time, you know, it talks about the different components of the program and how a good way to think of it is it's a continuous planning and implementation process with the ultimate goal of improving our data quality. So we are all doing this, every part of these different components. You don't even really realize it, but I think Kaylee and Anna did a good job of synthesizing that document, the Quality Assurance Project Plan, into an easy to read diagram that touches on all the different aspects of our program. So if you have some time, check it out. So let's go ahead and scroll down, and here is the Quality Assurance Project Plan that was approved in December of 2022, and it's good for another 3 years. We have a link on our website, and there's a requirement on that document that we distribute that to all our partners. So like I mentioned earlier with the trainer enrollment form, when your trainees sign off, they've agreed to follow the protocols. Here's another avenue for distributing that document here at the meeting, and it will also go out on our newsletter this coming quarter. So 3 different avenues just to make you aware that this document exists. And if you have any questions about protocols, you can find it here. Okay. Let's keep going. Okay. One of the other things we talked about last year was that this meeting would serve as a reminder for our groups to update their group monitoring plans. So here we are again a year later, and so I'm reminding everyone that we need to update our group monitoring plan. If you have new folks that have joined your group, if you have new sites, maybe you're now monitoring other parameters, whether it's E. coli or riparian. So this is your reminder. If you scroll down, Desiree, this is all online. It shouldn't take long at all. You can either update an existing group monitoring plan if you have one in place already, and the drop down will give you that option. Or if you don't have one, you're a new group, you can establish a new monitoring plan here too. So it shouldn't take long. It's pretty straightforward. So if you have any questions, reach out to us, but we can go ahead and scroll down.
I just wanted to point out that the group monitoring plan has been moved to a new platform. So as y'all will see here embedded, it's a Survey 123 form and no longer a Got2 form. So we've kind of condensed some stuff. We've asked for the group leader to be listed in addition to the training coordinator, equipment coordinator, and then the data coordinator as well. And just a reminder, you don't need a data coordinator, an equipment coordinator, or even a training coordinator, but there's options to input all of that information. We do, however, need a group leader, and that's now at the very, very top. So we've kind of condensed this document or this form a lot because it was pretty robust. So hopefully it makes it a little bit easier to follow.
All right, so those of you who are online and bored to death, you can go ahead and do it while you're attending the meeting. Okay, moving on. So we've got some updates that we made on the QAPP. One of those has to do with the monitoring associated with the advanced water quality monitoring kit. So we modified the phosphate method for monitoring for that parameter. So you still have to do the sample, conduct the sample filtration. It's required if you checked off cloudy or turbid for the water clarity under the field observations. So that's required for both phosphate and nitrate for both methods. We didn't change the nitrate method. That one is still what it was before with the tablets. But the phosphate method did change. So Hawk is the vendor for the supplies for the sample filtration. We worked with Lamont to see if they could provide the samples or the supplies for the sample filtration, and they just don't provide those supplies. So we're having to go with 2 separate vendors. So keep that in mind. Fortunately, those of us who monitor here in the Central Texas Hill Country, our water is pretty clear for the most part. So we don't have to worry about filtering our sample, but other places may. So I included that information there. So for the phosphate method, we're now using these test strips, and there's a image there to the right. They're pretty easy to use. It's very much like a litmus test for pH, but this is for phosphate. We've updated the guide, the field guide, and so there's a link here on the story map for the field guide. It has been updated to include this method. Lamont is the vendor for the test strips. And again, overall, it's easier to use. There's a video also that Aspen and Maddie have created, and there's a link located there as well. And one more update, we're working with Lamont to try to condense the advanced monitoring kit. We've had some input about it being rather bulky. And now that we've condensed some of our methods, I think there's room for improvement. And so that's one of our goals for 2023. And then finally, I want to add that we don't get a lot of advanced monitoring data. So we're hoping that by improving not only the kit size, but the protocols, making them easier, that, you know, we would encourage our trainers to encourage their community scientists to become trained in advanced. There's 4 additional parameters that are included in the advanced monitoring. The phosphate, which is a test strip, and it's pretty easy to do. The nitrate method is very easy as well. It shouldn't take long at all. It's basically you drop a little tablet in your test tube with your sample water and you flip it around, and then you do it again with the second tablet. And then you compare it. They're both colorimetric methods. Pretty simple. The other 2 parameters are, one is flow. And so if you have a gauge nearby where you monitor, you would simply go to the website and report the flow from the gauge. Pretty easy. And if you don't have a gauge, you can estimate the flow. And so there's a pretty simple method in our manual that will allow you to do that. And then the 4th parameter is turbidity. So if you're already measuring turbidity with a turbidity tube for your core monitoring, check, that one's done as well. So it's pretty simple to add the advanced monitoring parameters to your existing standard core monitoring. And I think the benefits are pretty important given, you know, increased development, increased nutrient loadings, those kinds of things. These would act as kind of a red flag warning system for us. So
Can you talk about the E. coli too?
It's separate.
it's, yes, I'm thinking it is, it's coming up. Okay, so advanced.
I have a
Let's,
quick question from Marty Kelly.
okay,
Is there a distance from a USGS gauge site where the data would not be usable?
Yes.
Yes,
go Ellie.
it's a quarter of a river mile, not as, so upstream of the river,
And it has to be upstream or downstream?
upstream,
Upstream.
quarter of a river mile upstream of your monitoring station.
He said, thank you very much for that.
Do you know, are the shelf life for the advanced stuff about 2 years, just like everything else?
1
year.
1 year.
Okay.
It's, I think part of that too is so sensitive to light as well too, and degrades pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say too, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later as well, but if you are interested in becoming a trainer, reach out to us. We'll work on how to get you set up to become a trainer for advanced monitoring. And if you're interested in, you know, getting support with an advanced kit, we do have extra kits currently on hand. Especially because right now we have to kind of like construct all of the new stuff together. So reach out to us. If you have people who are super interested and that's something you want to do, we want to be able to support you in that way. So keep us in mind.
What's the rough cost of the nitrate and phosphate sampling?
$250 on y'all's website,
Yeah.
$250
$250 for all of it.
for a year, for a year's worth.
Oh, for the reagents.
Oh, the reagent supplies.
So the phosphate strips come 50 to a bottle. And
It says.
I'm gonna say about $30
Hmm.
for the phosphate strips.
It's a little over $1 per strip, it's 25 per
Mhm.
bottle.
Yeah.
And then the nitrate tablets, I'm gonna guess it's roughly about the same.
Mhm.
So $100 for a year's worth.
Well, more than a year, because if you're monitoring monthly, those 25 strips are gonna take you way past a year or two.
I do 2 sites. so-
Yeah,
Well, yeah, but it's only good for a year,
that's right.
the expiration date, you know, so you have some spares, you can run a field blanker.
We have another advance on the calendar, right, in eight, or is that closed for registration?
April's E. coli.
There's another advance.
I mean,
When
I have
y'all's
one
next one?
advanced, October,
October.
it's later in the year.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then we'll release our schedule in probably like September. In the new fiscal year, we'll release more trainings as well.
Okay, so for those of you online, it sounds like Adam's leading an advanced training in October-ish.
It's on the calendar.
Later
Yes,
this year.
clear calendar.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. So monitoring form updates. We've made some recent revisions, like real recent. If you scroll down, it'll have the revision date, hopefully.
It's all intentional timing, I promise.
So we were trying to make it less busy and make it more useful, I guess. So we removed the box that had the NERDL patrol. You know, did you conduct a NERDL survey and the trash, documentation of the trash, and then the monofilament line as well. So we seldom, if ever, receive data from any of those three media. And so we removed that, and there's also online, there's an online system for those to be entered directly if you did collect any of those data types. So anyway, just wanted to point that out.
We have a question about the advanced. I monitor from Lisa. I monitor just downstream of a golf course and people ask me about the fertilizers, et cetera. Is that the kind of situation where I ought to add advanced monitoring?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Advanced is gonna be non-point source focused, so.
And then we do have a question about the back order. In Dallas, we have several E. coli testing sites. And
We're gonna get there, don't worry.
okay.
It's
Yes.
coming up.
All right. Oh, there we go.
There it is.
We're here. Supply orders and vendor delays. So we have experienced delays in our supply orders internally, and we have received many inquiries from many of our partners and citizens, community scientists that have also experienced the same thing. So I wanted to have include a brief discussion about this. So first of all, Lamont, a lot of the supplies that are reordered more often than not is, you know, the reagents and those kinds of things for your standard core kit, because that's the kit that most people use. So Lamont does not include individual item numbers for a lot of the reagents online. So a lot of people have trouble locating those and ordering online. So we've now provided the price list that we get from Lamont with individual item numbers and prices, updated prices. We get a list once a year. So we will include that on our website. There's a link so that you will have access to that information as well. And if you scroll to the bottom of the price list, there's also an 800 number. And a lot of times it's easier just to call them, give them the information and order that way. I think that would simplify the ordering process for our partners. And make sure you mention that you're affiliated with Texas Stream Team. You'll get a 10% discount from the price that's listed on the price list. And if you order in bulk for some of the larger groups, 10 or more of each item, you'll get 20%. And again, that price list is now available online on our website.
So
And there's a link here.
y'all order directly from Lamont.
Yes.
For some reason, HGAC orders from NAPCO, who orders from Lamont, and I don't know why they did that before I got there.
Interesting. Probably has to do with your vendor, you know, the vendors that you've been approved to purchase from.
Okay.
That's how,
We also used to do NAPCO. And then when we were able to do direct, it's much better.
quicker.
It's much better.
Yeah, like I said, the 800 number is at the bottom of the list, so you can call them directly.
Plus Lamont honors the discount as well too. And sometimes on the call center, there will be new people. So just remind them that our program does get the discount. And if they aren't aware of it, you can just ask them to speak to their manager. Some people are just new and weren't informed, so, but we do get it. I have it in writing.
Yeah, and it's on the form, it's on the price list also. So back order delays, we're still experiencing 2 to 6 months. I mean, we have a Collie Scan order from, that we placed with Weber Scientific back in October, late October, early November, that we still have not received, and we're completely out of Collie Scan. We're not able to get it currently. We've also had some issues with Petri dishes. We've had some molding that has occurred on our Petri dishes. I don't know if anybody else, I think we heard of another group. I want to say it was in the College Station area that also experienced issues with their Petri dishes molding over. And initially, Weber tried to blame us that we weren't storing them properly, but they are stored properly. They're in a temperature controlled environment. They did not exceed their expiration dates, and they ultimately agreed to replace them. But if anybody has had issues with that, it'd be interesting to hear from y'all as well. The other thing I wanted to mention with our Collie Scan Easy Gel is that we've been warned that the manufacturer of that media may be experiencing some financial crises, and they may be going under, going out of business, but we're not for sure at this point. But we are exploring other options for perhaps in the future transitioning to a different product. We're still in the early stages of researching that, and we'll probably conduct some tests, some side-by-side tests before we make that decision. But just a heads up. And then as far as making supply requests, we prefer that you order directly from the vendor. That's why we're providing the price list online and giving you some resources there. There have been some issues where individuals cannot have conductivity standard delivered to their personal resident address. And so we will try to facilitate in those cases. We definitely don't want you to not have what you need. And so we will assist with that if we need to, for sure. Let's see. Yeah, and so just, you know, keep in mind that we are also experiencing the back orders delays, and so trying to maintain our own inventory has been challenging as well. So bear with us on that. Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, then I will transition it over to Laura.
Hello, it's Laura, your data manager. Here with the part you're all waiting for, data. So we have here just a listing of some common data entry errors, and I won't read them all explicitly because we do have this here for you to refer to later on. I'll just use this opportunity to remind you to also remind your community scientists to take care when they're entering data. And if your data manager is doing that for others, to also take care and follow up with your community scientists if there are any questions on some of the numbers. We do have the ability to limit the numbers that are entered in for some of the parameters, but one of the reasons why we don't have those or make all those fields required is to allow for us to receive more data sheets. So we have to be flexible with getting some data, maybe not necessarily all. So that's why in some cases there would be maybe a bad number that would get through. So we just want to emphasize to take care when you're entering numbers for particularly the SecuDisc and the transparency tube. To take care with that and to make sure that you are conducting the pre and post calibrations for conductivity and using the proper tools for that. Temperature, also be consistent with that, please. One of the things that might be sometimes an issue if you're not able to is to not leaving a field blank, or to leave a field blank if you can. Don't put in a 0 because 0 is a data that does mean something. So if it is a field that you are having an issue with and you have to enter a value, I would recommend that you make it a crazy number and then make a note in the comments section. That's part of the reason why the comments field is there, for you to note anything, any issues you may have had while you're doing your tests. And you can also just email me directly at Texas Stream Team to let us know that that was an issue, and it may be something. I know there is one field in particular that I am mulling over in my head the best way to go forward with allowing some variations in the data entry because of the different way that we do the test. And I think it's DO off the top of my head. We have 2 different ways to do that.
pH and with Pro 4 and standard 4.
Right, so so just keep in mind, I am mulling that over the best way to do that. I would rather move slowly and do it the best way to avoid breaking other things or having to keep making changes. So I am on top of that. Make sure you're putting the decimals in the right place. That's such an easy thing to do, especially when you have a leading 0 or you leave out a leading 0. And these are the only numbers, the range of numbers for pH, 0 to 14. But as always, if you have questions, there is always the QC checklist that's provided on the data sheet that gives you reminders and also that you need to fill out. And also there is the training manual that you can refer to for any questions with that, which people have done great work on keeping those updated and correct.
Ayla Miller just said internally, we use a standard error code of 9999, if that's helpful. And we use survey 123 for electronic field data, and they're all required fields.
Yeah, that may be something we do in the future, but like I said, we're trying to
Figure it out.
yeah, we're trying to figure it out as we go along. It's still and if you keep going, the electronic monitoring form is like, if you can scroll down a little bit, please.
Of course.
It's what, a year old now? About a year old?
A year old to the public.
So that is going along pretty well. I think it's, people have taken to it quite well. Every once in a while, I do get a question about, maybe sometimes people can't access it on their phone, and I haven't really been able to pinpoint a reason why it works sometimes and it doesn't other times. Fortunately, I haven't gotten a lot of those, but if you do use a mobile device when you're out in the field and using the electronic monitoring form, and you do experience that problem, I would recommend the standard thing of like trying a different browser or waiting until you get back to a more stable connection to submit the data sheet. Because once you start filling in the form, it will save that information in cache for you. So you don't have to enter it all again. And then you can submit it when you get to a more stable. So just as another emphasis, that a thing that we want you to pay attention to, or particularly the data coordinators, people who are entering the data, and also the citizen or the community scientists themselves, is to be consistent when entering the names on the forms. And use it the same way every time. So that we can go back and say, oh, Lulu Magoo has been monitoring for 12 years. As opposed to like Lulu or Lou or Luli, like it's hard for us to put those together.
Or what we see a lot of is like using Lulu as an example, 'cause she's ever an example. Is we have people who will type in their full name or they'll just say L Magoo. And then sometimes they'll say L dot Magoo. And every single time your name is entered in a different way, we can't query, if you ever want data, you can't download that data by just searching your full name without a period or, condensed. So something to keep in mind.
I have a quick question from Lynn. Does Texas Dream Team conduct data entry training? I ended up having to teach myself once our person left.
Oh, that would be something that you could set up with me and I would be happy to like set up a virtual session for us to go through, drive through the data viewer together and show you how to do things. So happy to do that. Just email Texas Dream Team and we'll get you set up.
And you have done those.
I have done those before and surprisingly, I enjoy them.
You're doing the right job.
I do.
We don't get requests for a lot, which is why we don't have like reoccurring. Not a lot of groups have a data coordinator, but yeah, as they come in, Laura handles those, so.
Oh, and this is an opportunity for me to tell you, especially Kendall, since you're here, there is still a little bit of, there is a bit of a manual process that still has to happen to get information from the electronic monitoring form into our data viewer. So if you don't see something, don't feel like you can't ask me about it or hesitate to reach out. But that there is a manual step I have to do before that information is visible to the groups. So, and I'm fairly certain at this point, unless things change drastically, that will always be the case, but I try to take care of that on a weekly basis, but sometimes things happen like ice storms.
Texas.
Yeah, or anything could happen. So this link right here, you don't have to click on it, Desiree, but I have provided the link to the page that has the resources for where you can access the electronic monitoring form. I recommend doing it from there all the time so that you have the most, just in case the link changes for some reason, you always have the most up-to-date version. It also has how-to video, how-to guide. So you can point your community scientists to it or use it as a refresher. But again, I'm always happy to do one-on-one sessions so to answer your specific questions and get a little more in detail. And I'm always looking for feedback so that we can improve things. And I have relied on Adam and others here, Kendall. Thank you all, so that we can make our product, so that we can make our tools as useful as possible. I have been using the word product lately, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? I think I've been reading too many articles about Facebook. Product managers. Continue to scroll down.
We'll see if there's any feedback first. Does anybody?
I have one more thing that I wanted to mention. Thank you. If I have my own comment. The electronic monitoring form and other versions of the data sheet will be used to submit.
Field audit sessions.
I was looking for another word. Proof of a field audit session. And that will be how we track how often someone has done their QA or their field audits. And that would be one form per person. So we are working on right now refining the duplicate rule to allow for multiple entries on the same site in the same day. That's not live yet, but you will then be able to submit 3 events from the same day and same site if you're conducting a field audit. And each person would have their own sheet so that you can keep their own record for their comments and whether or not, whatever the trainer wants to say on in that section. I think that was all I had. Are there any questions for that?
No questions on line.
Anybody have any feedback on how the electronic monitoring form has been going? Even if it's good feedback or feedback for us to note as we move forward and continue to add more trainings to this platform?
This, I just want to say I had that problem with the form on the phone in the field. I just blew that off. I have a hard copy. I take it back. I go to the laptop and hit that thing and it just goes through every time without any sweat. So
Good.
I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah.
But it, you know, I just said, why bother with the phone? The other thing is on the name. I plead guilty to doing that. And I think I've got an excuse because, you know, there's 1,000 emails and things, you know, you put your name, username down differently and someone that, you know what the story is, everybody has experience. How do I find out who do you think I should be called?
This is a perfect opportunity for you to choose.
Yeah,
You tell us.
okay. Well, I was just wondering about past stuff. I mean, I'll be consistent from here on out if you have said this.
Yeah, no, it's understandable, but we just want to be able to give credit where credit is due mainly.
Right. no, I-
Especially if we're gonna
okay,
be using it to track field audit too, it becomes more important, but.
Right.
So,
So you don't know what my original name entry was.
well, I have to go in and fix it, so.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll do that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I guess, and then this is Kendall, I guess just following up on when he mentioned taking a hard copy and then coming back to a laptop. That's actually what I recommend since I'm HGAC's data manager. I've noticed several of my monitors will skip a field, especially if their answer was like no color or one of the ones where the answer like field observations was none. They won't scroll down and click the correct one. It'll be the one where they haven't chosen. So I asked them to actually do the hard copy, so when I have questions later, they have that. But I recommend that if you're having other people monitoring and you're reviewing it.
It's also more difficult to do a typographical error if you're not typing.
Yeah.
So,
Lynn said that she tried the electronic monitoring form once, but couldn't ever see that data online.
Are you selecting your group, Lynn, through the drop down? That might be why.
And
Yeah,
then-
if you have access to see your group's data, that would be another point to clarify is to make sure that the correct group has been selected, because when you're on, if you have access to the data viewer and you're looking for your group data, it's associated with a group. So I can manually, I can go in and change that pretty easily, but if they're picking Texas Stream Team, it won't show up in your account.
Yeah.
And if you're not seeing it, if the question is you're not seeing it on the data viewer, it might just, that's a monthly update, so. But you can reach out if you think your data is missing and check on it.
And that's another point on that, another reason too why we ask for the group monitoring plan, because once we get that, then Laura goes and makes sure that any group monitoring plans that are submitted, that group is on the electronic monitoring form to be selected as an option as well too.
And then we have a couple questions. I'm not sure if it pertains to field audits or the data entry of field audits, but first from Judy, do field audits need to be done on all sites that a monitor performs? So 3 sites, 3 audits?
No, we're looking for technique. So as long as they're using, and typically you'll apply the same method at each site. So one site is adequate.
And then from Lisa, do we need to do the audit at the person's monitoring site? Also, does the info go to their group automatically, or does that need to be arranged?
It's preferred that they do it at their monitoring site, but as Lisa did it, she did it here. And so as long as it's a site that can be monitored, so that they can implement the protocol appropriately.
And Sandra will go into more detail about all things field audit session at the very last point of the day too. So keep that in mind too. That might answer some of y'all's questions. All right.
Y'all have had the paperwork to do electronic monitoring and training. Have y'all had a lot of submissions for that?
For ours, we do it, but we don't go back and like track that data.
We get a good.
Yeah.
certificate. I keep it in there
Okay.
because I like to see
How many people?
like how many are using it during the trainings. So,
I'll say a tip for data or groups that have a data coordinator. If you have y'all's monitors actually use the electronic monitoring form, that's less entry that you have to do directly. And then the goal would be once Laura pulls it into the data viewer, every week or whatever it may be, then all you have to do from that point is QC that data. So might make things a little bit easier for y'all, especially if you have a lot of monitors, 10 plus, that stuff piles up, 10, monitoring forms per month.
It's got about 5 hours.
It's a lot, yeah, it's a lot of time. So I'm hoping this has saved, data coordinators time on that front, especially. Because I know it saves us time too, because groups that don't have a data coordinator, we're entering that in manually. Shout out to Haley, our student, who's been doing all of that and doing a great job. So something to keep in mind.
Are there any more questions on this one?
Well, we have, scroll down. Our next point is just a stopping point to address any questions from anything we've talked about thus far. If anybody has anything before we move on.
I don't know if you were gonna address this later, but it occurred to me that one thing I think that you had told me was that you were hoping to limit like the amount of times you updated things and to keep like things like maybe just doing an update once a year for.
Yes, we're gonna talk about that.
Okay, cool.
Yes, yeah. Anything on that?
Nope.
No. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll take a break before we get to our next section. I don't think it's worth starting a whole new section. So let's do about 10 minutes this time? Does that sound good to everybody? Anybody want more time? I think we're doing pretty good on time. So okay, let's shoot for 10 minutes. So let's be back here at 12:05, let's say. And you are gonna come for lunch later or no? No. Mm-mm. All right, gave a couple extra minutes there, but that's okay. We're almost through the end here up until the field audit session. So this next kind of segment will be flying through a little bit more so kind of reminders. We didn't want to bear everybody with going through the kind of same redundant stuff we talk about every year. We'll kind of just be switching it over to a reminder and then providing those links and resources as well too for you. But we're here for any questions as well too. Scrolling down. You're at Laura.
Oh, yes, I am at the top of the list. Just wanted to remind everyone, when you go to, you want to get a new site to monitor, that we have the data map which shows inactive sites as well as our active sites, and we would prefer if there is an inactive site in the area that you are interested in to reactivate that. You don't have to submit a request for that. You can just start submitting data for that site and then it'll become active. That it's already gone through the process and been approved as a site, so it should be good to go. If you do need to create a new site, there is a new monitoring site form that is available from the data map. It should be your first stop in when looking for a new site. And that form has the link that gives you all the requirements that a monitoring site should meet. And we will go through those again too when we review the request. But those criteria are there for you to look at before you submit the request.
I had a question on that. Since so many of our sites in the Houston area go back to like the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of the times when we submit a new site, it's because a site that is existing, the safety conditions of the site have dramatically changed. Is that something you want to be made aware of if a site is probably not something?
Absolutely, yeah, that would be good.
On that note too, within SWCM, the SWCM manual, and this is what we follow as well too, is you can move a site like where you're monitoring by 400 meters. So if you're monitoring a site and it's no longer accessible, you can move it 400 meters and you don't have to create an entirely new site. So keep that in mind as well too.
Is that we can just move it or we should move it and report to you?
I would recommend reporting.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I can see that trending.
Because
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
the description might not fit,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
if you say, I monitor this site, this number, 5-digit number, but then the description says, I go to this dock at this part, and that dock no longer exists, so now you're going somewhere else. It would be good to update the description
Yeah.
so that
Change the-
future,
You're also changing your location relative to tributaries eventually, so.
Maya? So, hello, this is Ally. Again, I want to remind y'all that if you guys do go to an event on Texas Stream Team's behalf, or if you just wanna spread the news, spread the good news about community science, we have some promotional materials available for y'all to print out on our website, a few brochures, fact sheets that are available to you guys. We wanted to remind you guys that those are available for us, for y'all to use. And the link is, it's linked right there whenever you get it, so.
We have a question. San Antonio now has a massive hike and bike trail system that crosses creeks or goes along creeks.
Yeah.
I'd like to encourage new sites as this opens up whole new tributaries. Advice on how to encourage new sites?
Any initial thoughts? Anybody?
I mean, so at HGAC at least, we make them discuss their new sites with us, and like, we have a water resources information map, which is like the data map, except it's just our region. And our Clean Rivers program, so we kind of use that to encourage them, and again, we send them to inactive sites, but we don't let them just pick anywhere, we try and encourage it. So if that's something where they have to get with you to pick a site, you could say, well, we're really encouraging this because of, safe access, public area. So just having that discussion with them is one way we use it to encourage sites in particular areas.
yeah, I think we would also, our top priority is to monitor at sites that the state monitors at. So SWCM, Clean Rivers program. That would be our preference, but we definitely don't want to discourage individuals from monitoring other sites as well. So yeah, submit a site request form online, and that's one of the things we look for as well. Comparability with some of our state sites, and just, is it safe? Is it accessible? Is it those kinds of things?
Awesome. Yeah, Lisa said we can talk later, but that is a good start for me to open up the conversation locally.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Okay, so this is Claudia, kind of reiterating some stuff about the online calendar. Here is, I think it's your guide, right? We have a guidance document that kind of runs you through how to submit events to our add events calendar is what it's called. So follow that link and it'll give you all of the instructions you need to add that on there. And we just kind of have it on our radar to look at it every week and release those events. Again, if you have to postpone or close out a training or any other event that has registration, you can always reach out to us and we'll update those details. And same with certificates. A couple new things though that I briefly mentioned before is, again, they are on a monthly rotation. That's our schedule for releasing the certificates out for the previous month. And then the issue about certain emails not receiving those. So that's kind of been something we recently looked into. So we kind of brainstormed within our team that we would be adding a couple tips to try to mitigate any issues that people might have with receiving communications from us like that. Because they all come through MailChimp usually if we're not directly interfacing with you through our email. So we might be adding some things to our website to kind of try and give people some instructions on how to add us to their, mailing list, basically, so you get our communications.
Would it be, advantageous for like the city of Dallas when we do our trainings? If we're having difficulties, maybe sending them to me and then I can send it out to
Yeah.
Yeah, we can, yeah, if that's something you request, certain trainers do kind of want to handle that as well. So ultimately, they would still be receiving it from us and it'll just be kind of on that, but they can for sure get that from you too. So for sure, when you send us like a sign-in sheet, you can say, hey, can I request that you send me a copy of these certificates so that I can disseminate them? We can totally do that. Yes, we've had some trainers like actually print them out to give to people because like it's the whole other level of satisfaction to receive a certificate. So that's going above and beyond, but we do digital certificates.
I definitely know the feeling. I thought about printing some of mine out. And I'm like, you can print it out for yourself.
Do we still do the little ID cards?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, we have those.
Those are on a, like a request.
Request basis.
Yeah.
And those are if you want to feel, legit, want to flash your badge at someone that might be asking questions,
Also more so if you're accessing an area, like when we go out and monitor, we have some sites that are not the easiest to park. And so people are like, what are you doing here? And so, having any type of identification is good as well to let them know what you're doing and that you're not causing any trouble.
Especially on like bridge sites too.
Apparently we look suspicious out there. Another little thing to give people so they feel secure.
Super quick question about certificates and about the data that people enter. How do y'all want people to identify their names? Like if somebody is Matthew, but goes by Matt.
That's a good question because I've noticed that on sign-in sheets, they'll put one thing and then on their form, they'll have something else. We use what's on the form.
Okay.
So ultimately, definitely, if that's what you want, have it on. And also we get emails like, hey, there's can you change this? And we do, we'll, take those requests.
Consistency is key.
Yeah, because our citizen scientists like tracking data of all of our volunteers. We try to have it so that we can track everyone's levels of certification. So ideally, all of those names should match within our records as well. But that is what we use. We use the form to create the certificate. So whatever's on the form is what will be used for the certificate.
And so preferred name for the training enrollment form. Maybe we should put that in the like subtext, like the hint text. Yeah, so we ask them in the hint, I think it's, please put your full name and we can say on there, elaborate and say this was your preferred name. It doesn't have to be your legal name.
Okay, this is Sandra and I'm talking about the PPE and safety tips. So this came about internally. It started with the manner in which we store our reagents and our chemicals. And so we were dinged, if you will, because of improper storage, and it kind of snowballed from there. Ultimately, given that our standard port kit uses the sulfuric acid, that calls, we read the MDS safety data sheets, and therefore we are required to implement some safety requirements as well as part of our protocols. So we're asking our citizen scientists, our community scientists and our trainers and partners to use the, some kind of eye protection, and also some, the gloves, just for protection from the various chemicals you come in contact with. And the MDS sheets are also accessible through the standard core training manual. So if you go online, there's a link there towards the end, the latter part of the manual, there's some safety tips, and there's a link there to all the MDS sheets for all the chemicals that you come in contact with. So if you want more information about that, go there.
Because it's technically that sulfuric acid's corrosive, the azide solution's toxic to organic life, and the wide range indicators flammable.
Flammable, yeah.
And
As the general warnings.
yeah, for safety reasons. I will say too, emphasizing gloves at all times, not just for safety, but also so your data doesn't become manipulated. we've seen multiple times in trainings, somebody's using like scented hand sanitizer or they have sunscreen on. You're gonna get a variation in whatever you're testing, whether it's pH or nutrients. So really always like wear gloves and emphasize that when you're leading trainings as well too.
Yeah, I think the E. coli monitoring protocol says you can either use hand sanitizer or gloves. And the hand sanitizer does kill the bacteria on your hands, so that would be appropriate for that monitoring type. But other things, you know, I've seen where people apply sunscreen and then they did the pH test and it was way off. Yeah, and so that was it. She had some residue on her hands. It was a good teaching moment and learning, you know, moment for the participants in the class. I don't recall, but it was way off. That's all.
It depends. If it's the chemical based, it becomes acidic.
Yeah, I thought
If it's
it was
mineral
acidic.
based, it's basic.
Yeah.
I thought it was when it's.
So like Aspen said, yeah, either way, we should wear some kind of protection. The next bullet item has to do with monitoring forms and records retention. So because we recently revamped our quality assurance project plan, we have a records retention requirement. So we have to maintain any record, including monitoring forms. You know, we prepare progress reports and those kinds of things. Anything that's identified as a record in our QAPP, we must retain for 4 years in-house, whether it's hard copy, if it's available, or digitally, if that's available. That's the only way it's available as well. And even though we can't impose that on our partners or on our community scientists, I would encourage you to maybe consider, and you may have, some of the other organizations may have different requirements. I don't know if you're aware of them, but they may be longer requirements. That's something I just wanted to raise some awareness that does exist. And because we're required to maintain it for 4 years, if we were to get audited and we were to need to refer to something that was collected 2 years ago, we might give you a call, say, hey, can you provide this or not? So something to think about as we move forward. So there's always something coming up, and this is the latest.
And you can attach an attachment to the data viewer entry. So keep that in mind too. You can store the monitoring form, like, you know, a digitized copy in the data viewer.
If you're still using paper, I
Yeah.
think if
Yeah.
you enter your data on the electronic monitoring form, we're good. That's our record, that digital record. Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought of something of going back to PPE and safety, because it's something that we had thought about again with our storage is also disposing of chemicals. So I think we added, when we were talking about our storage, we were also trying to make sure that we were disposing of I guess like the expired reagents properly. So just keeping that in mind. I know with like our reagent waste, it's always, if you're hooked up to the public the wastewater, right? Stormwater, you can just dilute and pour, but then also like making sure you know if you're on a septic stormwater
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, if you're on a
Yeah.
septic system, you probably don't want to pour your waste down the drain. Take it to a location where it undergoes some kind of wastewater treatment
Yeah,
is the differentiation there, so.
because I know that helped with us with our reagents and what to do, like do we need to call the DHA, just have them come pick it up for us, so.
Okay, the other thing, the next bullet item is probe core. So probe core is the use of the probes as opposed to the chemical tests. So instead of standard core, we have probe core. We've kind of shied away from that monitoring type here recently. We haven't conducted any trainings. We do have citizen scientists that still use the probe core. And in fact, we have used it for some of our projects here locally as well. I will, one of the reasons why we're shying away from that is the maintenance that's required of those instruments. So they're very finicky. And they require you to conduct continuous maintenance to maintain them working in a proper working order. So we're not necessarily promoting that monitoring type currently. So keep that in mind if that's something you're interested in doing. We'll definitely talk to you about it and try to discourage you from doing that. But if you choose, ultimately, if you choose to do it, that's your choice. And we have the training materials and the protocols for that monitoring type.
And we can help you maintain if you have any questions on.
Desiree is our in-house expert. She would be happy to help you.
And there's a maintenance guide online too.
Yes.
Some groups have the capability to have a designated person to conduct routine maintenance on it. So we're not discouraging if you're already a pro board trainer, we're not discouraging you from not leading the trainings, but we're just reminding y'all that we are not leading them ourselves until we find a better solution on like a piece of equipment to keep it going.
That's affordable.
Yeah,
That's affordable.
yeah, affordable, reliable,
Yeah.
and not so finicky.
Mhm.
Okay, next bullet, position separation notification. So we created a trainer status form and it is online and live now. And this is just a form to say, if you are moving to a new position, or you're no longer gonna be where you are working, this will be a form you will fill out to provide us the latest information, so we have it on file. So kind of going back to, again, if you have your, if you've only provided us with your organization email, this is a way to give us a backup as well too. You can always email us and let us know, but this form will have everything filled out. It'll ask you if you're going to continue Stream Team in a new job, if you're going to a new job or a new region of Texas, whatever it may be. So hopefully that kind of helps streamline things. And again, that's on the trainer forms and resources page. It's also linked on the story map for later access. Partner networks, this is just kind of a reminder, you know, y'all are the local representation for Texas Stream Team in your region. And we want to encourage y'all to encourage other people to get involved, but also want to emphasize we're here to help with that as well too, whether it may be like resources. And one thing that we've really tried to do and have been fortunate with grant funds to do within the last year is if a new group is up and running, they have a lot of people, you know, ready to go out and monitor. They provide us with a list of their group monitoring plan. They have a lot of citizen scientists. We have started to provide them kits. So, and we've kind of only done one kit per group just to make sure everywhere in Texas has the access. Those kits are technically on loan, but they're on loan for however long you're using them. Unless you purchase a kit from us, but the kits on loan, we just ask that they're used at least once a year. And we understand sometimes things come up, you need a break or whatever it may be. So just keep that in mind. And I can't promise that we can always offer that, but I can say at least maybe within the next couple of years, I think we should still be good. Now there's like 20 groups coming at us. I can't promise that, but we've been able to secure some grant funding at the very least. So we've been able to help out a lot of groups lately. So I'm hoping that will help people because we know the kits are the most expensive part at, you know, the very get to get a group started. So we're hoping to take that burden away from people, whether it's advanced or core.
And the way that works is at the start, y'all provide everything and then they're responsible for upkeep and
Yes.
replacement.
Yep, so we'll give you an equipment loan agreement form and it'll talk about what Adam just said too. It'll just say you'll be responsible for the kit. You can use it however you would like. Please leave it in that location. It must be a public kit or a kit for your group for everybody to use. That way, everybody in the region can benefit from that donation as well. It says after 6 months, if we notice no activity, we'll reach out and just make sure y'all are still doing okay. After a year, we will ask you to send the kit back if it goes dormant so other groups can benefit from it. But it does say you'll be responsible for replenishing it and all of that, which is way cheaper than the actual upfront costs as well too. So keep that in mind. One reminder that's not on here, but I do think it's worth mentioning is please, if you have to contact us, always send us the email to txstreamteam@txstate.edu. every single one of us that are in this room with Texas Stream Team has access to that email account. So when you email us directly, sometimes it may not be our role within the program, so we have to just forward it to Stream Team already. Sometimes when you CC us and Stream Team, we get a double email. So just make it easier for everybody. All you have to do is email txstreamteam@txstate.edu, and we're constantly filtering those emails to the appropriate person. So just keep that in mind. The only one you got to remember. Any questions online or in the room?
No, Lynn just said thank you for advanced kit. I have been using it.
Perfect. I'm glad. Okay. Moving on to miscellaneous. So you've heard us a couple times throughout this meeting, jump back and forth between citizen scientists and community scientists. And there's a reason for that. And we are officially transitioning the name over to community science or community scientist. A lot of groups in the nation have been moving over to a name that is more inclusive and representative of their programs. The EPA also made a big announcement that they are doing a kind of universal name called participatory science. And we just didn't like the way that digested. And so, but we researched other programs and kind of saw what other community science programs are sticking with, and community science came up a lot. And I think it's representative of what our monitors are doing. They're representing the local community. It's inclusive. And so that being said, you're going to start seeing community science on resources. It's very deep in the website. There's a lot of citizen scientist reference. I've been trying to update it as we're going, but just kind of know we'll do an official announcement in our next newsletter that'll be coming out in March. But y'all have heard it here first, and some resources have already been updated online as well. So officially Texas Stream Team Community Science Program.
It'll be a while though before everything gets updated.
Yeah,
There's a lot.
yeah, there's a lot of documents, so.
Vintage.
Huh? We will be ordering more shirts to get the correct name too, but slowly but surely, once we run out of these guys too. All right, let's see, where am I at? Okay, website updates. So Texas State University is requiring us to move over to a totally different layout within our system. So the website will be completely revamped. If you have any suggestions on things that are not so friendly in the website that we should take into consideration, please email us and let us know. I know there's been mention of some of the resources are kind of like buried in deep in there, and it's hard to kind of like make all of that super easy to access with all the trainings and whatnot, but we are working on that. So I will just mention that timeline. We're hoping before April, I will say, but we want to make sure it's in like pristine condition before we release it into the wild. So just something to note, we will do announcement in the newsletter that that's coming, so nobody's blind. And we will probably also do like a little tutorial video or something as well too, because some of the resources are going to change locations. So the links that we're providing, however, will never change. So keep that in mind. So on resources, we have started to, I think we're in a good groove now. We've gone through a lot of trainings and updated a lot of resources because it was kind of outdated, and our trainings hadn't been updated in a while. We're now kind of up to par with our state professional monitoring guidelines, which do change also. So we made sure everything is kind of up to the recent standards. So that being said, I know we've released a lot of resources for you guys, and sometimes in the middle of the year, and we've told y'all to pull them from the website, and I still kind of stand by that, but also we are now moving to where no resource from here moving forward is going to be updated until this time next year. And we will do the same thing we did today. We'll let you know what we changed, and then that will be implemented for the following year. But any changes that we make, we'll make it on the back end, and we won't release it until this time next year. So that being said, if you have a lot of like core trainings coming up and you want to just print all of the documents all at once, you can now do that. And we promise they're not going to change until this time next year. So hopefully that helps you guys. And then also it segues really nicely with these meetings, and that's when we let you know what has been updated and whatnot. Any questions?
It's only kind of tangent. Can y'all make any comments about microinvertebrate bioassessment?
Yes. You want me to take it or you? Yeah, Sandra's like, you take it. Okay, me again, Aspen, sorry, I'm trying to remember to introduce myself, but, we have been taking, y'all been with us for a couple of years. We've been going training by training to make sure that, again, everything is in compliance as much as possible with state professional monitoring, whether it's be units, protocols, documentation. And a lot of our trainings also didn't have all of the resources we have provided now, whether it be videos, field guides that are a little bit more in depth, the QC checklist, the monitoring form being updated, things like that. And so we've been taking it by the popularity of the training. So we started with standard core first, good to go on that one. E. coli has been revamped, and then advanced was this year, or this past year. We did have a graduate student who was willing to take on macro, but unfortunately, well, good for her, but she got a full-time job and she was able, or she didn't no longer had time to take on the project. So with that being said, we now don't have a point person to take on macro. And our next kind of big goal probably this year is gonna be coastal monitoring. And we'll get more into that as well too.
Yeah, we might need to backtrack to E. coli, like I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
And transitioning that to the coastal environment was one of our goals for 2023. We've
Especially,
had a lot of requests for monitoring bacteria in saltwater or brackish water, and so we're kind of moving in that direction.
So would it more or less be safe to tell the community that microinvertebrates off the table and not
Yes.
the expected need in a while?
not this year, I will say, unless we get a graduate student who is able to help us. And that may be something we can apply for grant funding for as well. But yeah, I would say not this year for sure.
Cool.
And we do not advertise it on the website anymore. So I know people still see it though.
They do.
They still find
People have
it.
memories.
I know.
Yeah, we get requests for that too.
Yeah, every now and then we had like one spurt where we had like a group,
Mhm.
but since then I haven't heard of anything. So I know it's a bummer, but we want to make sure that the trainings that we have out are to the best of, they can be as far as resources and protocols and, being super like type A with making sure y'all have everything y'all need as well. So more to come, hopefully. And if you know any grad students or anybody who wants to take on, yeah, we already have kind of a good summary of what needs to be done when we were working with the prior one. So keep us in mind. Okay. Any questions on virtual?
I love Richard's comment. He said, I'm a citizen scientist.
All right, scroll on down. All right. Or are you gonna go over this? Or do you want me to? I think it's your graph.
I mean, it's our graph, it's not mine. This is us, y'all. So congratulations.
What are you looking at?
What are we looking at? This is the active sites and the community scientists actively monitoring on a monthly basis. So pretty consistent across the board. I don't know the direct comparison to last year, but I know our numbers are consistent with last year.
I feel like we had a big push in new trainers from new
Yes.
trainers last year, so
Yeah.
thank you to all of you for going through that process. I know it takes a while, but those numbers up there, 11 new trainers just last year alone. So
Is that just new people who have become trainers or trainers who have gotten a new curriculum? Okay.
So like
Nice.
you finishing like other E. coli and stuff are noted on there as well too. So this is just a recap of the 2020 metrics.
2022.
Sorry, 2022. We don't want to go back so.
No,
But yeah, the amount of trainings listed, amount of trainers, community scientists, monitoring events, groups, partners, just something that I think it's worth mentioning. Y'all are the ones helping do this and on the ground, some more than some of us are. So none of that would be where it's at without you guys.
Those monitoring events are awesome.
I know,
That's so good.
we should have done monitoring sites noted for next year. Okay, scroll on down, so y'all can take a look at those graphs at your own time, but Laura put those together. We got about 20 minutes left, and I think we're gonna make it, so pushing through the last bit until the field audit session. So the goals achieved, this is just a list of what we've achieved for 2022 that we discussed last training of, or training made, or what is it, meeting? There you go. We discussed would be a priority at last training meeting, but then also some stuff that was added on via grant deliverables or priority or things that came pressing and preferred as well too. So like Sandra mentioned, QAPP got approved. Field audit sessions, we've ramped that up and we'll go over all those things, field audit sessions here shortly. You want to talk about the Tampling project?
Sure, so Tampling is something that we've considered and we've been testing for detecting optical brighteners, which are used as a tracer for sewage contamination from septic systems. And so it's a project that Desiree has been leading in Wimberley for the most part, but Kelly Albus is the AgriLife research scientist that developed the technique, and she's been promoting it statewide at teacher workshops, trying to get teachers, and Allie's been a part of that, those workshops where she's developed a kit and she trains the teachers on how to deploy women's feminine products, tampons, because they are organic and they are cotton, and optical brighteners adhere to that material, and they're very inexpensive, relatively speaking. And so that's the material she uses. She deploys it in the field, and then they go retrieve the tampon and analyze it with a black light. If it fluoresces, it has optical brightener contamination, and so it's an indicator of septic system contamination. Optical brighteners are used in laundry detergents. They're used in paper to whiten paper, including toilet paper. Therefore, if you find it near an area that is serviced by septic systems, it's likely that there is some contamination from those septic systems, either malfunctioning or, are too close to a water body and can infiltrate. Anyway, so that's what the Tampling project is about. And the intent is that Texas Stream Team may in the future take that on as another monitoring type that we would develop protocols for, training protocols, train our community scientists, and implement that as a red flag warning system for potential sewage contamination to our water bodies.
And then Melissa said this is a cool sampling project. Are there any standards for optical brighteners? QC standards?
What kind of standards? We have commercial standards that we calibrate with. And you can also simply
Water quality.
dip a tampon, no water quality.
Yeah, I was
standards.
gonna say, I don't think so.
You can dip a tampon in Tide detergent and flash it under a light, and boy, it illuminates like a light bulb, literally. So.
Nope.
I mean, you said septic, you mean like individual septic
On-site.
systems?
Yep, more rural.
Sanitary sewer from municipal facilities probably not going to allow that to get through.
The
or-
mon-
It shouldn't if they're operating properly.
That's why the monitoring is done alongside E. coli bacteria. So if you have like
They go
this
hand
E.
in
coli
hand.
bacteria counts with the optical brightener fluorescence, then it indicates that it's most likely sewage septic leak.
Is it just yes or no, or is it quantitative in some fashion?
Well, the tampling would be presence absence. And again, it would serve as a red warning
Right.
flag
Control
system.
indication.
Mhm.
More
And then-
designated.
I think Kelly has mentioned that Dallas area has really taken this on too. They do it pretty regularly and they use it as red flags for them to go check out areas where they get hits. So it's actually used over now in Dallas. So-
Yeah, Melissa said she would want to test the hypothesis with the wastewater treatment. plant.
Yeah, me too. Let me know if you do.
Marty said, is there any reference describing the methods? I guess we'll link the Cypress Creek project website in there for.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on. So we have a hard in F1, so we have enough time for the field audit session. The other things we have released this past year, new resources, advanced training, like Sandra mentioned, the new methods, the new updates, field guide, all of that. Updated the trainer enrollment form, the PowerPoints, the training enrollment form, group monitoring plan, training sign-in sheets, and also the modules that are not listed on there. Updated resources include monitoring form, preparing manual, training module, oh, there you go. And then match mileage and time log, trainer status form, core and observation only electronic monitoring form, and then training phase tracking log. So basically, this is just a summary of everything we just went over for the most part. All right, let's go ahead and scroll forward. Now we're gonna go through 2023 goals brainstorming, and a big part of why we want you guys here too, not only to learn about, you know, the stuff that's been going on, but also to help us decide what we need to focus on next year as well too. If there's anything that, you know, y'all could find helpful with what y'all are doing for the program, we want to know. Locked-in goals include the coastal bacteria monitoring program. Sandra briefly mentioned it, but we have received a grant to explore developing a community science program for coastal bacteria monitoring. Training manuals will be updating the E. coli bacteria in the advanced manuals that will come with approval by TCQ officially this year. These are again all locked in because they're all grant deliverables. So we'll be updating the advanced kits. Website will be revamped. Bess, who was here earlier, is working on education curriculum that align with TEKS for teachers because it hasn't been updated in probably almost a decade. So that will be alive and well online before the end of the year, if not by the end of spring. And then we're exploring the possibility of a junior monitoring program. We might just be doing the initial research and kind of tabling and seeing what the results are. We really want to prioritize other trainings before we go and develop like a whole new audience, if you will. So, but there are some goals that we want to brainstorm with y'all. These are kind of some things that are on our radar for next year. Something we didn't get to last year was updating all of the monitoring protocols that are online that comply with the new updates that we've done, or kind of fixing some videos as well too. Maintenance videos, we have guides, but we don't have videos to complement that. So that was one thing we thought of. Creating group leader coordinator packets. So this would be like a packet specifically for a group leader, whether you're a trainer, a data coordinator, or a equipment coordinator. And it would be all things, everything you would need to know, from who can be one to what you need to do during a training or post-training, pre-training. It would just kind of be like a guide, if you will. And then Spanish translations, we know we're behind on that. And one reason why we had that kind of on the back burner is because we knew we were going to be updating resources anyways. So we wanted to wait before we pulled in a grant to get somebody to translate those. So that's one thing on our list. Expand monitoring forms to be electric for all of our monitoring forms. Creating an alert system for field audit sessions. So this would be like, we would get an alert somehow, whether it be to the trainer or to us, to let y'all know that somebody is outdated for a field audit session. And then probe core alternatives was what we talked about. So I know that was a lot. I'll say the locked in goals, again, those are for sure going to happen no matter what, because we're tied to those. But for the goals to brainstorm, I wanted to see if anybody had any goals to add to this that you can think of.
Do y'all have any goals for like geographically in Texas of where y'all want to promote programs in different further parts of the area?
No, not other than coastal. Yeah,
Maybe
Coastal
coastal
bacteria.
yeah,
maybe the panhandle, if another teacher workshop is happening out there.
yeah.
Okay.
It's not, never mind, not the panhandle. That's not happening.
That kind of comes in on a, like a request basis.
Yeah.
Just because sometimes like Ally went to San Angelo, I don't remember when, October. And, you know, we put a, like an announcement out there to get people involved for Stream Team and nobody took the bait while we were out there. So it's easier for us to work with where, like, you know, it's already coming from, the communications are already coming from. And grants also kind of help us narrow it down as well too. We have a lot of coastal focus, but we're not only doing coastal work as well. Anything in the chat? Nothing that y'all can think of that would make your lives easier? Hopefully that means we are making your life easier.
I hate to complicate things because you've already got so much on your plate already, but just so you know, this is Tom. One thing that I am doing, and I admit I have not looked at your materials on the riparian evaluation in some time. I remember watching a video a while back. You were at a bridge somewhere and, you know, doing that thing. Is that where it's at right now? Is that basically what you still have?
That's the virtual.
Yeah.
Yes, the virtual.
Okay, that's the virtual. So you can think about this too. One thing I'm doing, I identified a couple of areas that I want to look at closely, and we're got plant people. You know, those are hard to find. I mean, you know, like especially this time of year, you know, you don't know what that stuff is, you know,
Yeah.
unless you really know it. But to supplement that, I'm going back to one of the questions that I had when it began the process of selecting these areas, the photo point monitoring. There's no specs on that I can find anywhere. Height, location, it's like, look, take one upstream, one downstream, and one on each side, you know. Not even any camera specs, you know, from the point of view of, you know, focal length and aperture, all that usual, you know, photo nerd stuff.
Yeah.
Let alone, you know, anything subsequent. So what I'm just talking about is the reliability of that. Maybe that, you know, is worth thinking about, you know. This is what you should, how you should do it, at least reporting how you did it
Yeah,
specifically.
and that's something we've talked about.
But also what I'm gonna do, just because the resource is available to me, because I have someone who will do this with me, is we're gonna GoPro. The areas we're looking at, one's about 300 meters, the other's about 150 meters of stream length. Hallway length, I like that word. So, I mean, that's another thing to think about in the future, you know. And then that leads to the next one, which is also a resource I may explore, because the opportunity is there, because I have someone, you know, with the skills, whatever is, of course, the drone thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically what I'm saying is that those are just other ways of, you know, establishing the record,
Refining the.
refining the photo
protocols.
protocol record to say, this is what it looked like this spring, this is what it looked like a year later,
Yeah.
after these events took place.
You said agrees on the online, said maybe not on what are other people doing with their riparian evaluation training? But I don't, she wants to create a project for San Antonians, but she doesn't know what others are doing, so maybe riparian resources, or I don't know what we would title that.
Right, because it's tricky. Because there's a lot of subjectivity and fuzzy edges with it.
At the moment now, we're actually working with a undergraduate class at this university. And it's not going to be great data, but it's giving them a chance to get in the field, and they're going to do drone monitoring and they're going to try to 3D map it. But it gives them something, and it gets our volunteers a way to meet up with people who know more than us. Right? So,
Just to add one more element to that, this is from someone at the Nature Center nearby where I am, in terms of reaching out to the public and saying, look, this is what happens, or this is what happened as a result of what we did to improve things. Right. It's, you know, the picture worth 1,000 words in terms of public outreach. So anyway,
You have nice visuals for comparison.
people like that. We like those.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, our approach to the riparian evaluation training is to use your remarkable riparian guide
Mhm.
and that bullseye approach. So initially was, you know, keep it simple. It's a broad audience. One of the things that we have talked about is the fact that that doesn't necessarily apply to coastal environments either.
Actually, there's tremendous variation, in all kinds.
So yeah, that's something we've had lots of internal
Because they,
discussions.
Steve and Sky developed that on Oasis. so
right.
Everyone's its own thing.
Yep.
Sui generis.
So we're calling that riparian guidance expansion.
Yeah.
Yes, something like that.
Yeah.
Refinement or-
Refinement
Just like-
or expansion.
Taking advantage of the technology that's there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Anything else in the chat? Okay, so,
One other thing, this is
Yeah.
Bob. So at Bayou Preservation Association, we're in the process of pulling together the data that I've collected, just because I've been doing it for 5 years and I have a data set, as an example of how to present the data, how to correlate the data, one parameter versus another, and to try and put something together. And I'm just wondering if you all have anything in the works or thought about sort of a template for how people can display their data, because I think in a lot of cases, the monitors will go out and collect the data and then poof, it goes off into the database and is never seen again. Any thoughts on that?
does that hurt your data summary report?
So we are required as part of our grant deliverable to produce data summary reports.
Mhm.
So we produce 4 a year. And we, have selected different areas around the state. Pretty much based on whether there's data available in a particular watershed. That's how we select the area that we'll focus on.
Mhm.
So this next quarter, this second quarter in FY 2023 will be focused on the Bernie area, Cibolo Creek. There's quite a few active monitors there. And so we do have a template
You do.
of a report. And if you go on our website to data and research, and there you'll come across a list of basins around the state, different river basins. They're all listed there. If you click on it, it'll give you the data summary reports that have been generated with data from those river basins.
Okay, great.
And there's some consistency here in the last 3 or 4 years, only because I've been doing them, or, me and with student assistants.
Right.
And so we did generate a template for how to present the data.
Okay.
So you might look at that
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
ideas.
Yeah.
And if you want your data analyzed in a report of that nature, and you said you have 5 years worth of data, what are we looking for? 10
Sites? Or
years? No, not
No,
necessarily.
we've done less than that.
We just need at least 10 data points.
Oh.
Not 10 years,
Yeah,
but at least we want something to be able to graph and,
Okay.
show visually. So I mean, if anybody wants their data analyzed and, written up in a report, send us an email. We're always looking for data. In our database, we'll query different watersheds and, identify data sets that are.
Great, well, that would definitely help to eliminate duplication of effort. If you've got something going on that already, so.
Yeah, and you can look at your watershed and see when we did it last.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, we do try to move around the state in different areas.
Mhm. Okay, great.
Another quick note on that, and then we gotta keep it moving, but Laura also is able to set up a report in the data viewer to generate anybody's data. And we have a form where you can request that information and she can relinquish that to you at any point in time as well. That'll be on the website under the data map and data viewer page, data viewer and data map page. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we only heard one suggestion to add on for 2023, and now we want to ask y'all really quickly to rank all of the suggestions that we just mentioned So if you hold your phone up to this QR code, you will be able to get to the survey or form really quickly. And
I have two.
yes, we have two. And then this is the first one. And then Desiree is also putting the link in the chat for those who are virtual. And if you don't want to use your form, if you're in person too, we'll send, the story map will be online, so you can fill this out afterwards as well. But we want to rank or get y'all's opinion on what we should prioritize based off of the goals that we mentioned that aren't locked in. Take a minute and do that, and then we'll move on to the next one. Anyways. How many people?
So somebody's Friday.
Desiree can see the results when they're coming in. We'll share with y'all the results post meeting.
You should be able to zoom in on it and then a website will pop up.
Yeah, but
He's
it's,
connected to the Wi-Fi. I'm seeing he doesn't. There's no.
yeah, no, it's not, it's,
There it goes.
okay. Ah, okay. I found it.
Okay. Only a couple more minutes. Maybe another minute, but gone. Yeah.
What was that? Can you see this? I was gonna see.
Yeah, I knew that. Monitoring protocol videos are coming in hot for number one right now.
lead.
In the lead.
The old ones are coming out.
And yeah,
The old ones are still very.
they are very old, and some people aren't wearing gloves.
Mickey Mouse hands.
You can, but I don't have that capability. I'm not a videographer.
AI.
Yeah, seriously.
Mickey Mouse hands on everything.
All right. We have one more to share. We'll move on to that one. This is gonna be a quick QR form. We just want to ask what you prefer the annual trainer meetings every year platform to be in, whether it's in person, virtual, or hybrid. I know we've done hybrid the past couple of years because of the pandemic, and this is our first time, or sorry, virtual the past couple of years, and then this is our first hybrid. So we want to see how we should cater these in the future. We understand the feasibility. It's nice to have the field audit session as an option if y'all come here. That being said, we can also travel across the state as well too, and hold kind of smaller sessions for regions as well too. Kind of something we thought about is if we get maybe like less than 10 people who say they'll come in person, we may just end up defaulting it to virtual only, depending on how much bang we get for our buck. So.
Wait, are we making money off these meetings?
That's the tip jar.
We're losing money.
You want to show the live response?
Nope, no, we're good. All right, everybody's thumbs down. It's a good amount of people. Okay, and like I said, this will be available afterwards too, so y'all can get to it, no worries. Okay. We're gonna jump in to our infamous field audit session that's been mentioned a handful of times now. For those who are online, hang tight. Sandra does have a kind of overview, and then we're gonna break and be out in the field. So those online will be able to hop on.
All right, so this is Sandra speaking. So the field audit sessions are again part of the overall quality assurance program for the Texas Stream team. And our end goal is to improve on our data quality. So statewide, we have a wide network of community scientists that monitor across the state. And so the purpose of these field audit sessions primarily is to ensure that everybody is doing the same thing. Pretty much. We want our data to be comparable statewide. So we want, the same units to be reported. Calibrations help with improving your, use of your instrumentation. This is something that's in our quality assurance project plan, and all trained or certified citizen scientists undergo their first QA session, whether you knew this or not, as part of your phase 3 of your initial training. So if you recall, phase 1, the trainer conducts the demonstration. Step 2, you kind of do it in tandem with the trainer. Phase 3, you're on your own. And so when you're on your own, the trainer is observing and ensuring that you are implementing the protocols appropriately. So that was your first field audit session. After that, every 2 years, we require that you be audited, just as a refresher, and maybe things have changed and you're not caught up with the most recent changes that have occurred with a particular monitoring type. So that's kind of why we started implementing these field audit sessions. So who conducts it? A trainer can lead a field audit session. A quality assurance officer can also lead it. You can become trained. And so Ms. Catherine here wants to become trained as a QAO. She's not a certified trainer, but she has been monitoring sites. And so this is her phase 1. Well, she's going to undergo a field audit session, and then tomorrow she's going to lead one or co-lead one as part of her training. So, so we do ask that the trainers, both online and those present here today, consider hosting an annual or a biannual event so that all of the individuals that are affiliated with your groups can get up to speed with the most recent protocols. So on the back of or if you have a paper monitoring form, it's on the back side. If you're using the electronic monitoring form, scroll down to the bottom and there's information about how to document the field audit session. So you basically, identify the trainer by name that's leading, that's observing the field audit session. They sign it. There's a section there for comments. So if you observe that Tom here is not reporting dissolved oxygen in milligrams per liter, and so you jot that down and you discuss it with him about how that should be documented. So any infractions or deviations from the protocol, you can document on the comments in the comments section. At the end of the field audit session, you discuss it with the individual being audited. Again, just to improve the overall methodology that's being implemented. Let's see, so you discuss the observed deviations from the protocols. The trainer signs the form, and you can enter it either into the waterways data viewer. Yes, okay. Or you can enter it directly on the electronic monitoring form. Or if you're still using paper forms, you can also document that there. And so we've now created this guidance video, and it takes you through all the steps. How to plan for one, the steps of, how to conduct one, who conducts it, how you conduct it, where you can conduct it. All of that information is in the training video. So I don't think we have time, right, Aspen, to show the video. It's like maybe
4 minutes or 5 minutes.
I think it's a little bit longer, but if you have some time, go over that and it'll step you through all of the steps that I just talked about and more. So at this point, we're ready to go ahead and adjourn.
Unless there's any questions.
So I did just have a question.
Sure.
They mentioned annual or biannual events. Is that something, so we have currently 35 monitors and before COVID, we had about 60 or more. So we were hoping to do it where they would come, almost like a training where they would come to one location. We could observe multiple
Yeah.
of them. Is that kind of what you mean? by
Yes.
that?
Yes.
So how would we do that, reporting it in the waterways data viewer if it wasn't at their site?
Yes, you can, as long as it's a site that exists. So I held one here recently for two of our community scientists. And we monitored out here at Spring Lake and I just observed them. And we are now, or we will soon be able to enter multiple events at one site on the same date. Because that was an issue initially, but things are getting shifted around to where that will be allowed in the system for documentation of the field audit sessions. So for example, here I audited two individuals, so hypothetically, they would each submit an event with their data that they collected, and at the bottom, it would have information about, yes, this was a field audit session, I was the trainer that observed them, and I will, documented their comments, I discussed them with them at the end of the audit, and they're good for another 2 years. So how long will that take to get that up and running?
I don't really have a timeline. I'm hoping it's pretty soon.
Yeah.
Surprisingly more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah, that was one of the things we encountered when I did the field audit session here, is that we couldn't enter two events on the same site, at the same site on the same date. Because we're trying to prevent duplication. But Laura's working on somehow bypassing that so that we can do that for these purposes. Okay.
Should we chat about this? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and let the virtual people adjourn. Our contact information, everything will be up within the next week. So we'll send an email out to everybody as well. Thank you guys for joining us, and we appreciate all y'all's insight and feedback, and feel free to let us know how we could have led this better as well too.
Everyone's saying thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. See you all next year.
Yeah. Hopefully sooner.
I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay. That works. And then we